Have you ever wondered, what truly happened at Chernobyl? Was it a mere accident or a calculated attack? In the early hours of April 26, 1986, the world was shaken by an incident that would etch its name in the annals of history, the Chernobyl disaster. This nuclear catastrophe nestled in the heart of the Soviet Union is more than just an industrial accident. It's a story tangled in layers of secrecy and intrigue. The official narrative tells us of a power surge, an explosion, and then the world's worst nuclear accident. But beneath the surface, there lies a web of unanswered questions. Questions that hint at deception, manipulation, and perhaps a darker truth. Was it really an accident, or was it an act of sabotage, a cover-up perhaps? Theories abound, but the truth remains elusive. Join us as we unravel the events leading to this catastrophic incident. To understand the Chernobyl disaster, we must first understand the circumstances that led to it. In the early 1980s, the Soviet Union was a world superpower, locked in a fierce rivalry with the West. Nuclear power was not just a source of energy, but a symbol of national pride and technological prowess. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant, located in the northern part of the Ukrainian SSR, was a shining beacon of Soviet industrial achievement. Little did anyone know that this beacon was to become a harbinger of disaster. The engineers at Chernobyl were some of the most skilled in the Soviet Union. They were well versed with the intricacies of nuclear technology, and the RBMK reactor they operated was one of the most powerful in the world. But despite their expertise, the reactor design had fundamental flaws. It was unstable at low power and had a positive void coefficient, meaning it could potentially run out of control if not handled properly. Safety measures were in place, but they were often compromised or overlooked due to the pressures of production. The Soviet Union was in a race, not just with the West, but with itself. There was a relentless drive to outperform, to push the boundaries of what was possible. This pressure trickled down from the top, creating an environment where taking risks was often rewarded, and caution was seen as a hindrance. The Chernobyl engineers found themselves in a high-stakes balancing act, juggling the demands of a power-hungry nation with the inherent risks of their trade. They were walking a tightrope, and beneath them lay the potential for disaster on an unimaginable scale. In the early hours of April 26, 1986, this delicate balance was disrupted. A routine safety test went horribly wrong, setting off a chain of events that culminated in the worst nuclear disaster in history. But was this merely an accident, a tragic consequence of flawed design and reckless ambition, or was there something more sinister at play? Despite their expertise, the Chernobyl engineers found themselves in a pressure cooker situation. On the fateful night of April 26, 1986, a series of unfortunate events led to the world's worst nuclear disaster. It all began with a routine safety test at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Soviet Union, now present-day Ukraine. This test, intended to simulate a power outage, was meant to help the staff understand how the reactor would behave in such circumstances. The plan was to reduce the reactor's power output, but a combination of design flaws and operator errors resulted in a power surge instead. The reactor's emergency shutdown system was activated, but it was too late. The surge caused a steam explosion, which blew the roof off the reactor, exposing the nuclear core. This was the first explosion, followed quickly by a second, even more powerful blast caused by the ignition of released hydrogen gas. In a matter of seconds, this once bustling symbol of Soviet technological prowess was transformed into a radioactive tomb. The explosions were so powerful they catapulted radioactive materials into the atmosphere, creating a deadly cloud of fallout that would drift across much of Europe. But the nightmare was far from over. The exposed reactor core was now a ticking time bomb, threatening to release even more deadly radiation into the environment. The glowing molten core, known as the elephant's foot, began to burn through the concrete floor of the reactor, threatening to reach the groundwater and cause an even more catastrophic explosion. Meanwhile, the plant's operators, unaware of the full extent of the disaster, were desperately trying to regain control of the situation. They were fighting an invisible enemy, radiation, which was already spreading beyond the plant's premises, contaminating the nearby city of Pripyat and beyond. The disaster was unfolding rapidly, and the world was about to learn about the terrifying power of nuclear energy when it spirals out of control. The Soviet Union, a superpower known for its secrecy, had no choice but to reveal the terrifying truth to the world. In the aftermath of the explosion, Chernobyl and its surroundings were plunged into a nuclear nightmare. The explosion was just the beginning. The real horror was the radioactive fallout that followed. Imagine an invisible monster, its venomous breath spreading far and wide, leaving destruction in its wake. That's what the radioactive fallout from Chernobyl was like. In the immediate aftermath, the nearby city of Pripyat was evacuated in a matter of hours, turning it into a ghost town overnight. More than 50,000 people were forced to leave their homes with little more than the clothes on their backs. But that was just the beginning. The radioactive particles were carried by the wind, contaminating water, soil, and air. The reach was not limited to Ukraine or even the Soviet Union. It spread across parts of Europe, its deadly whispers carried by the wind. The health effects were staggering. In the years that followed, thousands of people were diagnosed with radiation sickness and various forms of cancer. The children born in the affected regions were not spared either, with many of them suffering from birth defects and other health issues. The environmental impact was no less devastating. The land around Chernobyl became a wasteland, with the radiation killing off a large portion of the wildlife and vegetation. Even today, more than 3 decades later, the soil in certain areas is still too contaminated to grow crops safely. The Chernobyl disaster also had a significant psychological impact. The fear of radiation, the trauma of evacuation, and the uncertainty about the future took a heavy toll on the mental health of the survivors. Many of them still carry these scars, a silent reminder of the disaster that changed their lives forever. And then there's the economic cost. Billions of dollars were spent on containment, decontamination, and compensation for the victims. The disaster also led to a significant decrease in public confidence in nuclear power, causing many countries to rethink their energy policies. In the end, the Chernobyl disaster wasn't just about an explosion in a nuclear power plant. It was a grim reminder of the potential devastation that can be caused by the misuse of nuclear technology. The Chernobyl disaster left a lasting scar on the land and its people. More than 3 decades later, Chernobyl remains shrouded in mystery and controversy. The veil of secrecy that the Soviet Union draped over the disaster continues to fuel speculation and debate. One of the most enduring questions revolves around the true cause of the accident. Was it a result of human error and poor design, or was there a more sinister factor at play? Some theorists propose that it was not an accident at all, but rather a deliberate act of sabotage. However, despite these theories, the consensus among experts is that the disaster was the result of a fatal combination of design flaws and operator errors. The Soviet Union's handling of the incident has also been the subject of intense scrutiny. Critics argue that the government's initial denial and subsequent downplaying of the disaster exacerbated its effects, leading to unnecessary loss of life and environmental damage. The government's reluctance to evacuate the residents of nearby Pripyat until over 24 hours after the explosion has been particularly controversial. The delay exposed thousands of people to high levels of radiation, the long-term health effects of which are still being studied and debated. The health and environmental consequences of Chernobyl are another area of ongoing contention. The World Health Organization reports that around 5,000 cases of thyroid cancer among those exposed as children can be attributed to the disaster. However, other studies suggest that the total number of deaths and illnesses caused by the radiation could be much higher. The impact on the environment is also a matter of debate, with some scientists arguing that the exclusion zone has become a haven for wildlife, while others warn of the potential long-term effects of radiation on the ecosystem. As we delve deeper into these lingering questions, one thing remains clear. Chernobyl serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear power. The disaster underscores the importance of transparency, stringent safety measures, and careful management in the nuclear industry. As we continue to seek answers, Chernobyl serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear power. The Chernobyl disaster, whether an accident or an attack, left an indelible mark on history. This event, seared into our collective consciousness, stands as a poignant reminder of the profound consequences that can result from the misuse or mishandling of technology. The catastrophe's ripple effects, from the immediately apparent to those that lingered for years, have been explored at length in this video. We've delved into the provoking mystery, set the stage of the tragic day, unfolded the disaster and its immediate aftermath, and pondered the lingering questions that continue to haunt us even today. The lessons we've learned from Chernobyl are numerous, but perhaps the most important one is this. With great power comes great responsibility. As we look back at Chernobyl, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance, transparency, and responsibility in the face of powerful technology. Let's hope that the memory of Chernobyl continues to guide us towards a safer, more conscientious future.